So basically what I'm coming to you today with is quite a few bits of rebuttal to the opposition to the arguments that have come previous to me. And then I'm just going to talk to you about two main points. I'm going to just first outline the pressure that is on humans and why you would want to actually start believing in something like God. And secondly, I'm just going to propose a kind of non-conventional view of God to kind of counteract this attack on organised religion, that like organised religion is not exclusively what God is. God could be absolutely anything. So I'm going to make it more clear in that point there. So firstly, my rebuttal to them is, I believe the first speaker of the proposition really kind of outlined what this debate is about. He said the question is that the world exists, and I think this really sums up what we're trying to discuss here today. This is the real question we argue about life. Like, I'm not trying to prove that organised religion is like true or anything like that. I'm just trying to prove that there is something there that like we definitely cannot like rule out. That like there's no way that we can actually rule this out, not by science, not by anything. And that spirituality can exist independent of organised religion. There's many people who like don't subscribe to any organised religion, but they still have this spiritual belief that there is something out there. And that there's no reason to assume that spiritual God doesn't have a relationship with every other species around the world or around the outer star systems or whatever. That organised religion is not the only reflection of spirituality or the possibility of God. And then, like this whole like atheist argument of that there's something must exist. That Richard Dawkins has this argument. I remember I watched a video on it. He said the laws of physics dictate that something must exist that is unstable for something not to exist. And I feel this is a very kind of like you always keep delving into like further and further into this, whereas like you can never answer the question, well, what started this? Who created these laws of physics? What, like, it kind of is like a mind, you know the word, you can't really, it is kind of like you can't definitely say what is like the start point, where is the bottom of this bottomless pit of questions that we continuously ask. And I believe sometimes you just have to trust in this higher thing. You have to trust in this essence of life, this something that started this something that we're like living on and that we're continuously breathing and we've no idea why. Yes, science can like explain the mechanisms behind it, we can explain like evolution, but we can't explain exactly why it is. We can never do that. So that's why I think you can never disprove that God exists. So I don't see why you wouldn't believe in a God. I don't think this is such a horrible thing to like believe in. Yes, sometimes organised religion has their problems. That doesn't mean you have to be in an organised religion. You can believe in this other thing. So yeah, I come on to my idea of like pressure on humans. I feel that people sometimes, I'm not saying everyone does, some people have this void inside them that they feel like their life is meaningless or they don't know where things are going because they can't answer all these questions. And for some people, their search for meaning comes from religion or comes from believing in the spiritual God, that can give them a certain bit of solace in life, that sometimes life is like incredibly difficult, that people are prejudiced towards them and they feel like nowhere to turn to, where they can turn to this thing called God. It's like having an imaginary friend sometimes, some people might say. You can talk to him or talk to her and they'll listen. And also there's like this thing in life that you have an incredible amount of burden on your shoulders, that if you believe in nothing, you believe that you are like the sole responsibility for your life. Like, how bad is it then if everything goes wrong, if absolutely everything goes wrong, you feel like terrible, like you feel like what's the purpose in life? I can't do anything right, nothing will ever get better for me. But if you have that one thing to hold on to, that something to trust in, then maybe if it doesn't happen out, like you can trust in God, and if it happens or it doesn't happen, at least you can trust it, like maybe someday, sometime, this thing will get better for me. But if you don't believe in anything like that, it can seem like it will never get better at all, that you have nothing you can trust in and absolutely nothing will like improve in your life. And this is, I'd say this is similar to the way a child would trust a parent. Like a child doesn't have a clue about the world often at times, but they trust that their parent knows, or the parent will like it will somehow work out for them. Like to opposition, like you wouldn't throw an unsure child that doesn't know about the world out of the home. Like it's a comfort that they have these parents. I believe that the human race doesn't know everything about the world, doesn't know everything about the universe or about themselves. And sometimes this idea of like having this parent-like figure is very much a comfort factor. I don't see why that is such a horrible thing again to have. And that we believe this can greatly benefit some people's happiness. And why is knowing everything about the world like equal to happiness? Sometimes like being able to be blissfully just like put things out of your mind and just trust in this thing can be quite a nice thing to have. Like I don't see why life had to be like so horrible. Like why can't we have this? Why can't we believe in this God if we want to? Yeah. Yeah, I basically said that. So now, cool. I'm coming on to the kind of idea of this non-conventional idea of God. That, like, what if we've gotten the idea of God wrong? Like, what if he's not a monotheistic God, if I said that there's no evidence for there's no God? Like, I already said about the whole, like, creating the law of physics, like, who is behind it, and what actually kickstarted this whole thing. But what if God was behind it? What if he's not this being just sitting up in the cloud? What if he's providing the energy? He is the energy. He started this whole thing. He kept evolution going. Like, why not? Why can't he be that? Why can't he be that thing that started it off? Like, he doesn't have to be reflective of our image. He could be anything, absolutely anything. He could be like in Star Wars, like the little things that live in the cells. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like literally, we just don't know. I don't see why we can't, like, he can't be it. That humans can never fully pull out the explanation of life to its fullest. We will just have this continuous delving into like why and never be able to get to the bottom of it. And in the meantime, millions of people are left without hope, and they're just left thinking, what is the point of it all? And that's very confused as well if you ever just sit down and think for an hour about why is life. So sometimes it is nice to have that answer. And like, I just don't see why we can't trust that this is the God that we all essentially are praying to or thinking of, that all of the religions and all of the people are really thinking about. And I have a tendency to keep repeating points in my notes. So what I brought to you today, so I brought today is like this idea of like, I don't see why the opposition are so against believing in this God, because we really essentially don't know what God is. I don't think really anybody's hit the nail on the head of what God has the potential to be. I don't think anyone has actually proven why we're here or the existence of life. If opposition come up to tell me, do you know the meaning of life? Then yes. But in the meantime, I am fully happy to be believing in God. Propose.